Hello students, welcome to Top Scholars. Today we are going to discuss about the CBSE science topic, which is our environment. So into this topic we will be discussing about your previous year questions, that is from the year 2019 to 2023 5-year question. And majorly into this whole chapter, students, you will be able to understand that it talks about, as the name suggests, our environment. So how exactly our environment is built up, biotic, abiotic factors, various components into the nature, all of this is discussed. But you'll be surprised when you look at this table here. So into this you can see there we are provided with question, 1 to 4 mark question. We don't have any 5 marker questions from this topic from past 5 years, okay. And we'll be talking about all the 5-year papers, correct? Starting from 1 marker question into the year 2020, holding only 1 mark for you, okay. For 2 marks you have into the year 21, 22, 23. So total you have 3 questions holding 6 marks for you. Then 3 mark question, there were 2 questions into the year 2019, 1 in 2021, 22, 23. Total 5 questions holding 15 marks for you, correct? Whereas for 4 marker question, you have 1 question in the year 2020 giving you 4 marks. And you will be more surprised looking at this graph. So students, you can see there is equal arrangement or equal questions which are asked every year. So with this you can understand the importance of this topic. And the best part is, this is very simple. It's just like an environmental studies topic that we used to study into the lower grades, slightly into the depth, or a few concepts which are into the depth, correct? So you will be seeing that into the year 2019 you had 2 questions, 2020 again 2, 2021, 22, 23, every year there are 2 questions which are asked. So it's not at all a good idea to skip such topic because A, it is very easy, B, there is consistency about all the different types of questions which are asked into the past 5 years. Let us go and analyze a few questions here. So this is a question from the year 2019. The first question is short answer question which is for 3 marks. How can we help in reducing the problem of waste disposal? Suggest any 3 methods. Right? So you have to just mention the ways into which you can reduce the waste into the ecosystem, correct? Or you have also been provided with an option here. Define an ecosystem. Also you have to draw the block diagram to show the flow energy into the ecosystem. Not only for this topic, students, a suggestion for all the topics, practice the diagrams. Many times they will just ask you the diagram into the question. Here it is paired up with what is ecosystem, and then you have to state the block diagram. But many times it can be only the diagram which they are asking. So practice the diagrams regularly. Next is, what is water harvesting? How do you harvest your water? Basically the rainwater that we harvest for later use. And you have to list main advantages associated with water harvesting into the community. It is beneficial. You are not much dependent upon other water resources such as rivers or ponds or groundwater. That is what we are disturbing a lot, groundwater, correct? So these are the advantages of harvesting the water. Write 2 causes for the failure of sustained availability of groundwater. Humans are the causes. Because of the overuse that we are doing, you have to mention those failures for sustained availability of groundwater, correct? Again, a short answer question, children, which will be holding 3 marks for you. Can you understand how simple these questions are? The chapter is very easy. From the year 2020, there is a long answer question which is for 4 marks, right? Let's go to the question here. They have provided with a small paragraph, okay. The paragraph says, human body is made up of 5 important components in which water is the main component, right? We have a water, like human body is 70% water. Food as well as potable water are essential for every human being. The food is obtained from the plants through agriculture. Pesticides are being used extensively for a high yield in the fields. We use pesticides to eliminate the pest and insects from the field so that your crop production can increase. This is very commonly used nowadays. These pesticides are absorbed by the plants from the soil along with water and minerals. What are they doing? They are absorbing the plants from the soil, and this is done along with water and minerals, correct? From the water bodies, these pesticides are taken up by the aquatic animals. So not only we are affecting the human body, that is when we are eating those plants, we are consuming it with the pesticides, but we are also affecting the aquatic life surrounding us. As these chemicals are not biodegradable, they accumulate progressively into each trophic level. So for example, it is consumed by the plants. The plants will be eaten by the fish will be eaten by the larger fish fish will be eaten by another carnivore, right? So it is just getting accumulated into the trophic level. We call it as bioaccumulation. The maximum amount accumulates into our bodies, because for example, if you were consuming a fish which was onto the 3rd trophic level, correct? So the chemicals which were present before before that particular fish, that is the another 2 levels, is also getting accumulated into your body. So the apex consumers which we have, they are having the maximum amount of concentration of chemical accumulation here. Okay, so why is the maximum concentration of pesticides found in human beings? We already got the answer, because we are the apex consumer, and all of the other small organisms which have consumed it also get accumulated into our body. Give one method that could be applied to reduce our intake of pesticides through food and some extent. Like, what are the ways through which you can reduce it? Okay, there are various steps into the food chain, that is food web, trophic level, ecosystem, biomagnification. With regard to various food chain operating into the ecosystem, man is a what? A consumer, a producer and a consumer, and a producer and a decomposer. So, depending upon that paragraph only, you have to answer the following questions here, right? You have to determine the one method which you can apply here, and you have to determine the various steps into the food chain. And with regard to various food chain operating into the ecosystem, man is belonging to which particular level, correct? So you have to determine the, a very simple individual questions are asked over here, and like an objective type of question just combined together. Next is your year 2020 paper, a multiple choice question which is for 1 mark. Which one of the following is responsible for the sustenance of underground water? What method you can do to sustain it? Loss of vegetation cover, diversion of high water demanding crops, pollution from urban waste, and afforestation. Which of the following will help you the sustenance? Because you are going for underground water, it is important that you have to maintain the underground water. There are various ways through which you can sustain it. Next question is from the year 2021. Both of these are short answer type question. It's just the mark holding is different. One is for 2 mark, other is for 3 mark. So the 2 mark question says, what is an ecosystem? Students, it is repeated. We just understood about what is an ecosystem, right? You have to define there. Give example of natural and man-made ecosystem. Natural ecosystem would be a forest. A forest will be a natural ecosystem, whereas a garden that is just behind your house will be a man-made ecosystem, because we have created it, correct? What are consumers? Consumers are those organisms which will be consuming the producers, correct? So for example, a plant is a consumer. If you go into the food chain like this, a plant will be a producer, and an organism which consumes the plant is a consumer. For example, here we have a grasshopper. The grasshopper becomes the primary consumer. It is consuming the producer. Like this, we have another organism consuming the grasshopper. Let's say it is consumed by a rabbit. So rabbit becomes a secondary consumer. Correct? So the consumer is going to consume the organism. Name 4 categories under which the consumers are further classified. Primary, secondary. Let's say rabbit is eaten by a fox. So tertiary. Okay. And a fox will be eaten by, let's say, a lion. So this will be a quaternary consumer. Right? So these are the 4 levels of consumer that we have. Even if you don't write the example, because they have just asked you to mention the 4 categories, that will be also completely fine. Next is from the year 2022 paper, children. You again have short answer type question holding 2 and 3 marks individually. Let's go for the 2-mark question here. What is ozone? Remember students, if you observe the pattern of the questions that they are asking, many times they are asking you very generic terms like what is ozone, what is ecosystem, what is a producer, what is a consumer. So you should be familiar with all of these terms and memorize the definition terms for all of this. This will be very helpful for this topic. How it is formed into the upper layers of the Earth's atmosphere and how does ozone affect our ecosystem. We know what are the benefits of our ozone layer, how it is formed surrounding it, how it is helping us, right? Also, you have an option for this one. You have to list 2 human-made ecosystems. Again, the question is repeated. The last paper also, they asked you the example of human-made or man-made ecosystem. You have to list man-made ecosystem here. We do not clean a pond into the same manner as we do in an ecosystem. This is a statement which is given into your textbook. You have to give the reason to justify the statement here. Okay. So students, you can see that multiple topics, multiple concepts are getting repeated here again and again. Always try to find a pattern here. So the next question that we have for 3 mark here is, name the group of organisms that form in the first trophic level of all the food chains and why are they so called? So such a simple question students, they are asking you what is about the first trophic level. The first trophic level will always have plant. The organism is plant. What do we call them? We call them as producers. What are producers? Why are we calling them as producers? Because they are producing the food for you. When the plant is doing the process of photosynthesis, they will be converting the energy which is present into the sun. Right? The light energy is converted into chemical energy and they produce the food for us into the form of glucose. Hence, we call them as producers, right? Why are human beings most adversely affected by biomagnification? And state one ill effect of absence of decomposers. If decomposers are not there into the ecosystem, who will decompose our environment or decompose the waste material from a natural ecosystem? Correct? So here this is a short answer type question children and giving you 3 marks. 3 individual questions, if you write into one statements, you will be able to score marks for that. From the year recent paper 2023, what do we have here? How do harmful chemicals accumulate progressively at each trophic level into the food chain? A short answer question holding 2 marks for you. Up till now students, you must have understood the pattern. Very few concepts are repeated here. One is the definition terms that they are asking. They are definitely asking you questions related to your trophic levels, biomagnification, bioaccumulation. These are the most valuable terms that you need to know into this topic here. Right? So how do harmful chemicals are getting accumulated progressively? It is the same question which we answered earlier related to bioaccumulation. How is the accumulation happening into the trophic levels of your food chain? A slightly twisted question, but the concept remains the same. Another question that we have here students is a short answer type question giving you 3 marks, but you also have option here. For the first question, why is kitchen garden called an artificial ecosystem while forest is considered as a natural? Right? Because the kitchen garden, you have created it, you have selected the plants that you want to keep that into the garden. Whereas into the forest, everything is generated naturally. The variation, the variety, different species, all of that is naturally found. Correct? While designing an artificial ecosystem at home, write 2 things to be kept in mind to convert it into a self-sustaining system. Here you have to give a reason to justify your answer. Okay. Then for the second question, if you don't want to opt for that one, you can go for the second one. Construct a food chain of 4 trophic levels comprising the following: hawks, snakes, plant, rats. Such an easy question. You have to just create the food chain here, students. You should be very lucky to get such question, right? The first one will be plant, the second one will be the rat, the third one will be the snake, and the fourth one will be the hawk. Just bring that into a right sequence. Then you have 20,000 joules of energy which were transferred by the producer to the organism of the second trophic level. That is your primary consumer. calculate the amount of energy that will be transferred from that organism of the 3rd tropic level to the organism of 4th tropic level. You have to just show the amount of energy which is transferred. While solving this question, students, you need to keep one point in mind, that is, when the energy is transferred from the producer to a consumer, only 10% of energy is transferred. Rest all of that energy will be lost into the form of heat, or even if the organism is consuming it, definitely it is going to use for it, right? It will be using it for own metabolic reactions here. So out of 20,000, the first tropic level that we have here, let's say the primary consumer will only get 10% of it. So you have to first say what will be the primary consumer getting, 10% of 20,000. Right? Then the secondary consumer will get the 10% of the primary consumer, and the tertiary consumer will get 10% of the secondary consumer. So like this, you will be easily able to get your answer. So now it's time to go for some questions and solve some questions which we find a little difficult here, right? So the first one is from your paper 2020, which is a 1-marker question. So here, which one of the following is responsible for the sustenance of underground water? You have 4 options: loss of vegetation cover, diversion of high water demanding crops, pollution from urban waste, and afforestation. So for the solution, students, you can see that afforestation is responsible. Why? Because when you are doing afforestation, you are planting more and more trees. As there will be more trees, there will be definitely more rainfall, right? When there is more rainfall and when there are more trees, there will be definitely more rainfall. And when there is more rainfall, there will be more water seeping into the ground. And as you have trees or roots present, they will be holding up the water for you. So it will help you to sustain the water into the ground. Right? If you go for other options, children, option A is incorrect. Loss of vegetation. Loss of vegetation, and also for the other option, diversion of high water demanding crops, will use up the groundwater reservoir. First of all, when there is no vegetation cover, there is no rainfall, and diversion of high water demanding crops. If you're planting a crop which is too much water demanding, then the groundwater will be used up. So again, not a very good option. And last is pollution from urban waste will pollute the groundwater comprising its quality. You will not have groundwater for the use even if it is present, because you have polluted it. So rest of the other options, that is A, B and C, are incorrect, and the correct answer will be option D, that is afforestation. Next is from the year 2022, students. It's a 3-marker question. So name the group of organisms that is formed into the first tropic level of the food chain, and why are they so called? So for this one, autotrophs or producers. They are from the first tropic level. They are called producers because they are producing the organic compound. They are producing the food by doing photosynthesis, and that is made available for the consumers. We are the consumers. We consume plants. Other organisms consume plants. So all of these are consuming the plants. That's why we call them as producers. Second is, why are human beings most adversely affected by biomagnification? Biomagnification is what? Here we are just increasing the concentration of toxin. The toxin is getting accumulated into our tissues of tolerant species, which mostly occupies the top levels. Humans are present on the apex consumers. We are the top level consumers here, right? So our our body, when this toxin is accumulated, it gets accumulated into the tissues, and it is getting tolerant into our body. As humans occupy the top levels in the tropic level, the highest concentration of harmful chemicals is seen in them. Hence, humans are adversely affected because of biomagnification. Nowadays, you would find a lot of food items which are covered with chemicals, covered with pesticides. Why? Because we are using them. And ultimately, all of this is getting accumulated and biomagnified into our tissue system. Last is, state one ill effect of absence of decomposers. Absence of decomposers will lead to no recycling of nutrients. Very important point related to this. Decomposers help you to release some gases back into the environment. For example, carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide cycle is a lot dependent on decomposers, right? Energy could not return to the producers. They will not get the carbon dioxide back. What will the plant use? right? So decomposers help you to maintain that cycle. Also, dead leaves, insect, animals will pile up. You will have all the waste which is collected, nothing to remove it from the ecosystem. So decomposers play a very important role here. So students, what is an ecosystem? Give example of natural and man-made. This is a question from the year 2021, which is a 2-mark question. The solution here states ecosystem is a biological community. Why we are calling it as biological community? Because there are organisms, belonging into that ecosystem, into a particular area, and they all interact with each other. Let me give you one example. So let's say, for instance, there is a pond. Into that pond, you will be having certain factors which are biotic and certain abiotic, correct? So let's say, for example, you have biotic factors such as plants, right, and fishes and other aquatic animals. And you will also have other abiotic factors. Abiotic factors include oxygen, carbon dioxide, water, right? All of these are our abiotic factors. Now, what happens into an ecosystem? Both of them combine to form a biological community. Like the plants will be using the carbon dioxide, correct? The plants will be using the water to do photosynthesis. The fish will be using the oxygen, the animals will be using the oxygen to do respiration. The fish will be eating the plants. The other animals will be eating the plants. Other animals will be eating the fish. So they all are interconnected. They all are dependent on each other. That is what we call it as a biological community, because they are interacting with each other. Okay, and with other non-living components, that is abiotic components. An ecosystem consists of biotic as well as abiotic component comprising physical factor like temperature, rainfall, wind, soil and minerals. All of these are also examples of your abiotic component. The natural ecosystem occurs free in nature and it is not made by humans, whereas for the example we have is forest, oceans, desert, etc. We haven't made it, they are naturally present. Whereas an artificial ecosystem is made and maintained by humans. Example, we have aquariums, farms, kitchen gardens, etc. So students, I hope you were able to understand all the questions very well. If you have any other questions which you are not able to understand, do write us down into the comment section. Like, share and subscribe for more such amazing videos. Until next time, thank you and happy learning.